41 games. That's all it took for a 22-year-old point guard from Iowa to smash a record that had stood untouched through 565 battles of Diana Taurasi's legendary career. The number is already staggering, yet it was only the opening note of a night so wild that statisticians are still rereading the box score, convinced their eyes are lying. But the triple-double is only the headline. The real story was happening in the margins. The cameras locked on Caitlin Clark early, and why wouldn't they? 20 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. She did it all while tossing logo threes so casual they felt like warm-ups. Each pass seemed to glide on a zip line no one else could see. Every rebound materialized in her hands as if drawn by magnetism. By the end, she had become the quickest player, man or woman, to 3 career triple-doubles in professional basketball history. Yet the arena buzzed with a different kind of electricity because there were 11 new entries carved into league record books that night, and most fans only noticed one. Something bigger than a stat sheet was unfolding, and that's when the chorus of phones in Gainbridge Fieldhouse started buzzing, not because of Clark's numbers, but because a 6'4" veteran forward lined up at the charity stripe with a quieter kind of destiny on the line. DeWanna Bonner had already spent 15 seasons piling up buckets from Phoenix to Connecticut, but 7 points separated her from immortality. The crowd, still roaring from Clark's fireworks, hushed itself by instinct. First free throw, pure silk, record tied. Second free throw, net unmoved, record broken. Bonner slid past Tina Thompson into third place on the all-time scoring ladder with 7,489 points, waved shyly, then trotted back on defense. The moment lasted 10 seconds. Its reverberations may last decades because Bonner isn't just padding numbers. She's programming a young locker room with 2 championships worth of tough habits. When she speaks, rookies turn down their headphones. Yet as she jogged back, another storm was gathering at the opposite block, and it wore number 7 inches crimson. Aaliyah Boston had heard the chatter all week. Angel Reese promised to rule the paint. Instagram captions flexed, press room quotes echoed. Then the ball tipped, and Boston answered with a 5-block masterclass so emphatic that seasoned vets in row 3 flinched. Every swat rocketed off the backboard like a warning flare. Every rebound, 13 in all, felt torn out of midair. She finished with 19 points and joined Natasha Howard as the only players ever to post at least 15-10-5 in a WNBA opener. Reese grabbed her boards, sure, but shot just 5 for 14 over Boston's outstretched arms. The message was unmistakable. Indiana's second-year center is no junior partner. She's a cornerstone. She finished with 19 points and joined Natasha Howard as the only players ever to post at least 15-10-5 in a WNBA opener. Reese grabbed her boards, sure, but shot just 5 for 14 over Boston's outstretched arms. The message was unmistakable. Indiana's second-year center is no junior partner. She's a cornerstone. Still, something even stranger was happening between Boston and Clark, a two-way telepathy developing faster than textbooks claim possible. And that chemistry was about to rewrite yet another page of league history. Point guard and center combined for 9 blocks, the kind of stat usually reserved for twin tower lineups where both players hover near 7 feet. Clark's 4 rejections were a career high and the most ever recorded by a point guard in a season opener. She'd spent the offseason answering a challenge from coaches to sharpen her defense, and here she was, timing chase downs and weak side swipes like a seasoned rim protector. Boston handled the rest, patrolling the lane like an alarm system. Together, they turned the paint into restricted airspace and forced Chicago into panic jumpers. It's one thing to share highlight lobs, it's another to share dominance on the other end. 9 games with 20-plus points and 10-plus assists. It took Courtney Vandersloot 430 contests to reach that threshold. Taurasi needed 565. Clark checked it off in Game 41, as casually as filling out a grocery list. At this speed, she won't just flirt with every scoring, assist, and triple-double record. She'll devour them before most players hope for a second contract. The numbers are dazzling, but the deeper shock is conceptual. She's bending the timeline of what development is supposed to look like. 9 games with 20-plus points and 10-plus assists. It took Courtney Vandersloot 430 contests to reach that threshold. Taurasi needed 565. Clark checked it off in Game 41, as casually as filling out a grocery list. At this speed, she won't just flirt with every scoring, assist, and triple-double record. She'll devour them before most players hope for a second contract. The numbers are dazzling, but the deeper shock is conceptual. She's bending the timeline of what development is supposed to look like, yet records are only intrigue to outsiders. Inside Indiana's huddle, the emphasis is simpler. Win everything in front of you, play both ends, and let culture cement itself. And with Bonner's veteran voice echoing between possessions, that culture is forming like wet concrete in July heat. Fast, permanent, unbreakable. Then came the avalanche. Final horn, 93-58, a 35-point wrecking that stands as the second largest victory margin in Fever history. 11 distinct records shattered in one evening. Commentators grasped for adjectives: crushed, demolished, obliterated, none of which captured the larger tremor rolling across the league. Because Indiana's dominance didn't feel like a perfect storm, it felt like the calm before something even bigger. Look at the pieces. Clark, generational engine still refining new gears. Boston, two-way anchor learning to bully veterans. Bonner, living legend with the gravitas to fuse eras. Around them swirl shooters, slashers, and defenders who slot neatly into a system that already hums like a seasoned playoff outfit. When spacing, timing, and communication click this early, you don't ask if they'll raise a banner. You ask how soon and how many, which is precisely why the rest of the WNBA woke up uneasy the next morning. Because Indiana didn't just win, they revealed a blueprint, a roster that mixes baby-faced superstardom with ring-bearing vets, built around a pace and space philosophy that also strangles opponents at the rim, leaves very little for rivals to exploit. The Fever aren't hunting highlights, they're curating an era. And if you think 11 records in one night is an anomaly, remember, anomalies don't arrive with this much repeatable process behind them. Clark's assist maps show intentional spacing. Boston's rebounding angles come from reps, not luck. Bonner's calming presence in late possessions is muscle memory. What looks spectacular is, at root, surgical. So where does this leave the league? Exactly where the NBA found itself in the early 90s when Chicago's young core started piecing together something unreasonably cohesive. You feel the inevitability forming even if the championship hardware hasn't been minted yet. The biggest win for Indiana may not be the score or the records. It's the psychological seed planted in every future opponent's mind. If they're doing this now, what will they look like by August? The night closes out with Clark clutching the game ball, Boston wrapping a towel over her shoulders, and Bonner waving to fans who suddenly realize they've witnessed a pivot point. It felt celebratory, sure, but also oddly clinical, like scientists confirming the first sign of a groundbreaking discovery. Which brings us to the only reasonable conclusion. This isn't the Caitlin Clark era, and it isn't even the Clark-Boston era. It's the birth of an Indiana Fever epic that could spread across a decade, stacking trophies and rewriting rulebooks. One triple-double, one monumental free throw, and a defensive clinic later, the franchise sent a clear broadcast. History isn't waiting to be made in Indiana. It's already underway, so buckle up. Because if 11 records can fall before Halloween decor hits store shelves, imagine what numbers will crumble once this team decides it's time to peak. And trust me, when they hit that gear, the rest of the league won't just feel the heat, they'll feel the fever.